Viridian, the Green Guide, by Clouds. My Head in the Clouds Not Coming Down. Read by Oak Shadow 5. Chapter 42. The Little Things. Summary. Izuku hangs out with Kaminari. Dude! Kaminari panted as he tried to keep up with Izuku's jogging pace. Your stamina is unreal. Izuku chuckled. It's just years of running away from bullies. Well, that, and 6 months of running away from villains, even though most of the time he felt like it had been a lot longer than that. It was if he had always woken up in the middle of the night and gone out to help heroes. Maybe that was just because he'd spent so long desperately wanting to be a hero himself, but vigilantism just felt right. For Izuku, being Viridian almost felt like coming home, like it was something he'd always been meant to do. Not that he'd forgotten why he'd started fighting villains in the first place, it was always in the back of his mind, but somehow his suicide plans seemed a lot less urgent than they had when he first picked up his hoodie and goggles. Just go on without me, Kaminari said dramatically, falling to his knees in the grass on the side of the road and immediately flopping down on his stomach. Tell all the cute kids at school I'm sorry. Izuku giggled uncontrollably as Kaminari put on a show of pretending to die from training-induced exhaustion. Honestly, his friendship was probably another reason for the change in his mood. On his worst days, training Kaminari for UA gave Izuku something to live for, and on his best days, it gave him something to look forward to. He hadn't told Kaminari about his death wish yet. It seemed unfair to burden him with something like that when he had such an amazing future in heroics laid out for him. The only person that Izuku knew for certain that knew about his suicidality was Eraserhead. He'd been fully expecting the hero to abandon him and leave him to die in peace, but that still hadn't happened. Instead, Eraser had become a constant. It seemed that they ran into each other on patrol at least once a week, though a large part of that was probably because Izuku couldn't keep his nose out of the villain factory case, instead of Eraserhead trying to check in on him. It was weird having so much support. Just 6 months ago, he'd had no one, but now he had Kaminari, Eraserhead, and the other heroes, and even his mom, who had been more supportive than he could ever have imagined after she'd found out about the bullying. He really only saw her in the evenings right now, since she worked all day, and Izuku went to bed early so he'd be well rested for his vigilanting. But during those few short hours, she always asked about what he was learning in his online classes, and let him ramble about quirks, even when she didn't quite understand what he was talking about. It was nice. You okay, dude? Kaminari had turned over onto his back and was weakly kicking Izuku in the ankle, probably so he didn't have to get up. You spaced out, but didn't stop muttering. It was really weird. Izuku smiled and shrugged. It's not really anything important. Kaminari looked at him skeptically and tapped the ground next to him. Pull up some grass and tell Dr. Kaminari about your troubles. Izuku laughed, but sat down cross-legged next to Kaminari anyway. You're a doctor now? And here I thought you were going to be a hero. I hear those double careers can be difficult. Did your grumpy uncle tell you that? Kaminari groaned and sat up. And no, I'm too dumb to be a doctor. I'll stick with just fighting villains, thank you very much. Izuku frowned. Why do you keep doing that? Doing what? Passing out after training? Kaminari asked. It's because I'm a weakling. Yeah, Izuku said distractedly. Wait, no. You are weak, but you're getting stronger, and that wasn't what I was trying to ask about anyway. I'm sorry, I'm just putting my foot in my mouth again. I didn't mean to call you weak, I just... Midoriya, slow down, it's alright. Kaminari chuckled. What did you mean to ask? Izuku bit his lip. Why do you keep calling yourself stupid? Because I am? Kaminari said like it was obvious. I have ADHD, it kinda comes with the territory. But you're not, Izuku said. At least I don't think so. You've picked up on all the stuff I've taught you really quickly. That's probably because it's physical, not mental, and you're here showing it to me. Kaminari shrugged. I don't know. The fighting moves and stuff is just fun. Okay. Izuku had almost thought that Kaminari was just parroting back what other people had told him based on a stereotype, and that didn't seem fair to his friend. But the whole physical task versus mental task idea made sense. Not that Izuku really knew enough about ADHD to make any judgments. Are you done for the day? Kaminari gave him a sheepish smile. Yeah. I mean, if that's okay. I don't want you to think I'm ungrateful for your training or anything. It's not a problem. Izuku waved his hands frantically. It's better to pace yourself anyway when you start out so that you don't get hurt. Not that Izuku had done that at all when he'd started training, but he'd also been trying to get hurt, so there was that. So, do you want to get a milkshake or something? Kaminari grinned conspiratorially. We can undo all the hard work we just did running across the city. Izuku stared at him with wide eyes before giving a shocked laugh. Sure. Do you know any good places? What kind of friend would I be if I didn't? Kaminari punched him playfully in the arm and started jogging away. There's this diner a few blocks from here, and there's this really cute waitress that works there. If we're lucky, she'll be on shift. Izuku followed a few paces behind him, unable to shake a weird sensation of unrealness. He'd never really just hung out socially with anyone since his quirk came in. Yeah, there had been that first day when he'd first asked Kaminari to be his friend, but then he'd started teaching him how to fight pretty soon after that, so they usually train instead of doing whatever normal teenagers were supposed to do. Not that a secret vigilante and a future pro hero were necessarily normal teenagers, but whatever. Izuku liked it better that way, honestly, because he never had to worry about being enough. When he was training Kaminari, he didn't have to wonder if he was fun enough to just hang out with, or if his friend was just wasting his time hanging out with the useless quirkless kid. Even if Izuku wasn't fun to be around, Kaminari was still gaining useless skills, but with sitting around and just being together. What if he got bored and realized that Izuku wasn't as great and mentally stable as he pretended to be? He shook his head as Kaminari held open the door to a small diner for him. Kaminari had proven that he enjoyed being around Izuku, even when he was too injured from parkour practice to do much physical training. He wasn't going to abandon him just because they were going to get milkshakes rather than learn to punch. Probably. The diner was obviously American-themed and had checkerboard floors with waitresses on roller skates, bringing out the food. A hostess greeted them with an English "hello" and led them to an empty table by the window to look at the menu where they waited for Kaminari's crush to come by. I'm honestly floored by how graceful these girls can be on roller skates, Kaminari said. I'm pretty sure I'd break an ankle if I even looked at those things the wrong way, never mind trying to serve food in them. If you think that's difficult, imagine doing hero work on them, Izuku said. Kaminari looked at Izuku in disbelief. There are actually pros who fight on roller skates? Izuku giggled and nodded as Kaminari's eyes grew wider and he shook his head. No, dude, you've got to be pulling my leg. Like, okay, I know you're like some crazy smart quirk expert, dude, but there's no way that anyone could fight villains on roller skates. It's physically impossible. Nope. Izuku couldn't help relaxing slightly now that he was more in his element and talking about heroes. My personal favorite is the animated hero Artiste. Her quirk is really interesting. She's incorporated roller skates into her fighting style so she can quickly draw these huge pictures and then she brings them to life with her quirk. She actually patrols nearby, but because her quirk relies on her drawings, she's really only active during the day when she had enough light, so I haven't met her yet. Wait. Kaminari looked confused. Why wouldn't you have met her if she goes out during the day? Isn't that when you're out? I mean, it's daytime right now. Izuku tried to hide his panic as he thought of some sort of excuse. He should have known better than to let something like that slip. It was just that he was feeling so comfortable with Kaminari, and the only other person he really talked quirks with was Razorhead, who obviously only knew about his vigilantism and nothing else. Maybe he could laugh it off and pretend it had been a stupid joke. Well, you see... Can I get you both started with anything to drink? Izuku turned in relief to see a bored-looking waitress standing at the table with a notepad at the ready, though the eye patch over her left eye made it slightly more difficult than normal to read her expression. Her name tag said her name was Kohaku, and she had thick copper-colored hair that fell just past the shoulders. Wait, no. It was slightly reflective, so it might actually be metal. Was that her quirk? What could she... He realized he'd been staring at her hair for longer than was normally socially acceptable, when Kaminari kicked him under the table and shot him a look. Izuku shook himself in embarrassment and gave the waitress a sheepish smile. I'll just have a water. Sorry. All right. She turned to Kaminari and raised one eyebrow. And you? How about a shot with you? Kaminari winked. Izuku had to stifle a grin as he watched Kohaku roll her visible eye. Nice try. I'll get you a Diet Coke. She turned on her heel and walked away as Kaminari groaned and hit his head on the table. Oh, I thought it was a good one. Izuku patted his head consolingly. Maybe you have better luck next time, Kaminari. At least we got seated in her section like you wanted. Unless that's not actually the girl you have a crush on and you just flirt with other waitresses. Only most of them? Kaminari shrugged. And I don't have a crush on her. I just think she's cute. And besides, flirting is fun. From what I saw, she's just been shooting you down, Izuku pointed out. How's that fun? Because it's a challenge. Kaminari laughed and picked up his menu. And she's actually been a lot more receptive recently. She used to be really brash all the time, but then she had her accident, and when she came back, she was different. Her personality's a little more bubbly now. I think she decided life was too short to be abrasive. Was that when she got her eye patch? Izuku glanced over toward the kitchen, but couldn't see their badges. He had to admit he was curious about it, since most people who wore eye patches did so because of their quirks, and he was pretty sure hers had to do with her hair, not her eyes, but he didn't want to annoy her by asking. Kaminari apparently knew the story, though, because he nodded. Yeah. From what the other waitstaff here told me, she got knocked down during a villain attack and... I don't know if you noticed anything off about her hair? Izuku nodded eagerly. That's her quirk, isn't it? Her hair is made of metal, most likely copper if the color is any indication of the actual chemical composition, but then again, it could be different because of the introduction of human DNA. Of course our local quirk expert already figured it out. Kaminari chuckled. But yeah, because her hair is basically wire, it can apparently be pretty sharp. So she told everyone that when she got knocked down, it fell in her face and... Well, that's when she started wearing the eye patch. Oh. Izuku didn't really know what to say to that. At least Izuku had done something to deserve all the bad stuff that happened to him, being born quirkless and still wanting to be a hero. But Kohaku hadn't done anything to deserve losing her sight like that. That must have been so difficult for her. It doesn't make her any less pretty, though, Kaminari said pretty fast. I don't know. It adds like an air of mystery on her or something. He glanced over toward the kitchen and panicked. Oh shit! Dude, she's coming back! Did you even look at the menu? What am I supposed to say to her? Do you have any pickup lines to recommend? Izuku hid a grin behind his head and shook his head. Sorry, Kaminari. You're on your own. Kaminari pouted for half a second until Kohaku got back to the table, and he brightened. She sighed and gave Izuku an amused look that said something like, Do you see what I have to deal with? Izuku tried to hold back a smile as she turned back to Kaminari. Do you know what you want yet? Well, I have a little problem, Kaminari smirked. I want your number, but I couldn't find it on the menu. Izuku giggled slightly as Kohaku let out a short huff of laughter. Nice one. Are you done now? Kaminari sighed dramatically. I guess. Unless, of course, you want me to keep going. The waitress rolled her eyes, but Izuku could see a tiny smile too. Just tell me what food you want. Kaminari laughed. I want your grasshopper milkshake. And I want a strawberry one, if that's alright, Izuku added. Sure thing, boys. Kohaku winked at them with a good eye and turned to leave. Better luck next time. Kaminari groaned, but was still smiling. I felt like I was really close that time. Not really. Izuku's cheeks were starting to hurt from how much he'd been smiling since they arrived, especially since he hadn't had as much practice holding that expression recently. It was amazing. I'm sorry, but as your friend, I have to be honest. You need better pick-up lines. Kaminari laughed and took a sip of his coke. Maybe, but, I'm probably going to have to stop being such a flirt if I get into your way, so there's not really much of a point. Izuku frowned thoughtfully. Well, not necessarily. Kaminari shrugged. They're probably going to want me to be professional, something I'm going to have a hard enough time with as it is. Being a flirt would just be the last straw and get me kicked out. Not if it was part of your marketing plan, Izuku pointed out. Midnight uses her sex appeal to make her more popular, and even if you didn't want to go that far, flirting with fans would most likely add to your popularity, which would raise you in the rankings and help you be a more effective hero. Not to mention that people tend to get distracted when people flirt with them, so if you were to learn to do it more effectively, it would be a great way to throw villains off balance. Kaminari looked slightly shocked as Izuku finished speaking, but he also looked nervous? Izuku didn't know what he had to be nervous about. He obviously enjoyed flirting and thought it was fun, which meant that he'd probably be able to be really good at it and, as Eraser would say, it was only logical to take advantage of that. So what was he insecure about? Kaminari bit his lip. I don't know. It's just... Well, let's just say that I don't flirt with only the waitresses. Izuku took a second to process that. Oh. Yeah. Kaminari looked like he was waiting for Izuku to judge him and tell him that they couldn't be friends anymore. Izuku was way too experienced with that expression on his own face. He hated it. I'm not actually sure that would be a disadvantage, Izuku said seriously. You'd obviously have to talk to the marketing department once you make it into UA, but you'd be able to appeal to a wider audience, right? And stuff like that is becoming a lot more accepted anyway, so I think that if it's something you think you would enjoy, then there's no reason not to, especially not when it will make you a better hero. Kaminari looked at Izuku with wide eyes before he started laughing. So, you really think I can seduce villains, huh? Izuku laughed and rolled his eyes. Not with your current lines you can't? Oh? Kaminari leaned over the table and smirked at him as he lowered his voice to what was probably supposed to be a purr. Does that mean you're volunteering to help me? Izuku burst out laughing, and Kaminari leaned back into his own seat and joined him. They probably would have kept laughing until the milkshakes came if they hadn't been interrupted by an exclamation from a few tables away. You! The woman was looking at her plate in disgust. There's a fly in my burger. Wait. Oh, gross, it's a bee. I need to talk to the manager. Now! The hostess ran up to the table, frantically apologizing to the woman as she waved one of the waiters to go get the manager. Have they seriously not found the nest yet? Kaminari frowned thoughtfully. That sucks. Izuku looked at him in confusion. This isn't the first time you've seen this happen? Kaminari shook his head. They've been having problems with bees hanging around for a few months now. They just haven't been able to find the hive, so they can't get rid of them. I'd hate to be the manager right now. Izuku nodded in agreement, but he still couldn't help glancing at his milkshake when it finally arrived. It was bug-free, thankfully, but this time the waitress didn't even give Kaminari a second glance, much less respond to his flirting. She seemed almost angry about something, but it was probably just the stress of a customer finding a bug in their lunch, so Izuku couldn't really blame her. It wasn't like it was her fault that there were bees in the diner. That was chapter 42 of Viridian the Green Guide. I hope you all enjoyed this chapter, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!